And because of that, we have a great founder, a great visionary, who started this back in 2001 and then 2003 with his own, all of his own experience, but with his own knowledge, because one of the things that he's been trying to help America know is that knowledge is the best defense against prostate cancer, this disease that we're in a battle to. Mr. Barron.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Reverend Banks. You never do want to follow preachers to the podium, because the best thing that you can do is just say amen and hope you don't have to say too much more than that. But it's great to see everyone this morning. We had a great day yesterday over at the Washington Court Hotel, where we had a nice attendance there in person. But I want to let you know that yesterday we had over 10,000 unique viewers to our summit. And that is, I think, is a good online crowd. Thank you. I got that number this morning from Jerry George here. We looked at it yesterday as we were closing, and we looked at it again today, and it keeps growing, because I think there's a thirst for knowledge about prostate health, prostate cancer, because this disease affects so many of us. We think in terms of about 175,000 men each year are diagnosed and faced with prostate cancer. That's a lot of men, and that's also a lot of families. So if you think in terms of the families and the people who are impacted by this disease, all across this country, we're talking about thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. So our message was received well by this audience. And when you think of black men, we know that for us, the disease is a different disease, because we're diagnosed at a much higher rate, and we die over twice that of white men and all other men from prostate cancer. It's actually an epidemic in our communities, and it's one that we have established and focused on to eliminate. When I decided to found FIN in 2003, understanding that my story and my family story, where I had so many men in my family who were diagnosed and died from prostate cancer, my father, both grandfathers, and many others on both sides. That really gave me pause to say, I think I should do something about this. And we've been on this road since 2003, and we're making a difference. We're making a difference. We hear from people all the time. I get calls, emails, you saved my life. Your information was very pertinent to my family. And that makes us feel good at FIN. So we're happy to be here today for the 15th annual African American Prostate Cancer Disparity Summit. Yesterday, we spent a lot of time looking at the medical issues and some of the scientific studies, clinical trials, and we got an update as to where we are and where we're going on that side in this fight against prostate cancer. Today, we're going to take a look at the other side, and that is what is required on the ground in the fight to educate people, to advocate, because that is as important as what we're doing on the medical and scientific side. One of the things that was brought out yesterday very clear was that as it relates to clinical trials, black men are really not participating at a level high enough that we can make really defensive therapies are really impacting us. That's not good. That is really not good. It's not good on a number of fronts. The first front is we are losing time. When you talk about fighting the disparity that's twice greater than that for all other men, we cannot afford to lose time. And we're losing time. There were 3 studies, there were 3 treatments that were talked about yesterday. We talked about, first of all, Provenge, which is immunotherapy. We talked about enzalutamide, which is a hormone therapy, and we talked about abiraterone as a hormone therapy. Now, when you look at the data from the retrospective data, that means we're looking back at men who have been treated with those therapies. What is being found is that black men actually are doing better than white men and all other men with these therapies. But that information did not get out until 7 to 10 years after those therapies were put on the market. So we have lost time. Had we had that information then, we could have really targeted our population. We could have made sure we could target doctors, man, we are doing really good on these therapies. You need to know this information. It is very helpful to us. We did not know that. So we lost a decade in this fight against prostate cancer for black men. That's sinful. That's really sinful. So what we have to do on this side is to make sure we stop that slide. We can't continue to waste that time. So that means that when it comes to getting the word out to our communities, educating our communities about new therapies, about clinical trials, that is important mission for FIN. And it's one that we're going to focus on today for the second part of our summit, because I mentioned yesterday that we had 3 parts to the 15th annual summit. First was our meeting yesterday, where we focus on the medical issues. Today, we're talking about the outreach and the community issues. That's the second part. And tonight, we have a great treat for you, and that is our Daddy's Boy stage play. So that's the 3 parts of the 15th annual summit. So it's good to see you all here this morning. We're going to continue this crusade. We're going to continue getting this message out. And the first thing that I want to be able to do is to really recognize and greet the congressman that has made it possible for us to be with you 15 years with this summit. And I often tell the story that my Senator John Kerry years ago was diagnosed with prostate cancer. We spent some time talking, and he read my book. He said, Tom, I didn't know black men were impacted by prostate cancer this way. I said, yes, they are, Senator. He says, is there anything I can do ever to help? Let me know. So I think it was the next day. That may have been on a Saturday, but it was certainly I didn't let more than 2 days go by. And I said, Senator, you know, we'd love to bring our message to Washington, D.C. We think we need to bring together the policymakers, the medical professionals, the community with a summit. So you asked, was there anything? And I answered yes, and can you do that? So he reached out to Congressman Gregory Meeks out of New York. And from then on, we started our first annual summit back in 2005. And since 2005, Congressman Gregory Meeks picked up the baton and has carried it forward. And it is through his support. Let's give him a round of applause just for that. And I've called him my congressman. I'm from Massachusetts. He's in New York, but he's really my congressman here at the Black Caucus, because until this year, we did not have a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. Now, we do have one, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, but she knew I was in good hands. So she said, I've got another appointment, but Congressman Meeks will take good care of you. So I want to welcome and greet Congressman Gregory Meeks this morning. Let's give him another round of applause.
Good morning. It's indeed an honor, privilege, and pleasure for me to be here for the 15th year and to be associated with Mr. and Mrs. Farrington, who is a partner in this struggle. It is indeed an honor. Let me first welcome you to the annual Congressional Black Caucus Legislative Weekend. It is a weekend in which we try to make sure we disseminate information so that we can spread it around the country and so that people have an opportunity to understand the plight, the mission, the reasons, and how we can combat and change things in America. And there is nothing that is more significant and that plays a bigger role than health care. And health care, you will have found that we're now 55 members of the Congressional Black Caucus. We are the first time on the Democratic side of the caucus. For the first time, the majority of the members of the Democratic caucus are either women or minorities. So we are the majority of the Democratic caucus, which is a true reflection of the direction of which we are as a country. And so we've got to make sure that we get that message out. And having this partnership with Dr. Farrington, who seems like yesterday, but it was 15 years ago, we began to have this meeting. And why this meeting is important, and I believe what it does, it really is the essence of what we want to do at the Congressional Black Caucus, is not just have a brain trust or a meeting one year and then let it go the next year where there's no follow-up, where there's no saying where we are and where we still have to go. We, and Dr. Farrington's vision is, we're going to continue to come back here until those numbers have changed dramatically and we stop losing black men's lives. We stop destroying families because black men are dying because they don't have access to health care and getting the kinds of tests, et cetera, that they could utilize to save their lives. And so that's why this is so. How many people have been here before? So that's what this is about. You are focused on making sure that we continue this strong fight. Dr. Farrington just mentioned, and I know when I heard him being introduced by, sound like a preacher to me, that they're still 65%, black men are still 65% more likely to develop prostate cancer over a lifetime. And prostate cancer is still twice as likely to be fatal for African Americans. And at the rate of 15%, there are likely very few here. I know I have been impacted by it. I can tell you that in this process, in this 15 years, 2 members of my staff were diagnosed of having prostate cancer. And we try to, on our staff, to make sure individuals get regular checkups. But for that, they wouldn't still be here healthy, moving on. My cousin, my first cousin, was just diagnosed with prostate cancer not too long ago. He's now cured because he was getting his examinations. So it just shows that we've got a lot to do when we continue, because the question that sometimes, because when you look at that rate, the question sometimes people ask me, is it generic? Is it behavioral? We are only now getting to the bottom of it. We finally have a body of research dedicated to solely answering these questions. From the RESPOND study to studies at various treatments that are showing to be more effective on African American men, we are in a new age of research that has potential of saving countless lives. And I know from this panel, from what's been happening before, we're going to hear a lot more from the experts that are on this, and they will discuss and elaborate. But I also want to let you know that we have a responsibility here in the United States Congress. And so part of what the debate is going on right now and what we're working to try to make sure it does not happen, some would love to zero out the budget on funding for prostate cancer research. We don't want to zero it out. We can't zero it out. We want to increase it. It's not enough in the research for prostate cancer. So those of us in the Congressional Black Caucus, and now that we are in the majority, we are going to fight and make sure, I was talking to my good friend Barbara Lee, who's a part of the Appropriations Committee, that we're going to make sure that in our budget that goes in, I've talked to Nita Lowy, who is the chair of the Appropriations Committee, that we increase the funding specifically for prostate cancer. And my good friend and colleague, Donald Payne Jr., will soon be introducing a resolution that will officially designate this month as National Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. We've got to make sure while we are figuring out what we don't know, we can continue doing what we do know works, raising awareness, because what we do know is that black men are often diagnosed earlier in life and yet later in stage for prostate cancer. This disease, where every month, every day counts as a chance of survival, plummet if prostate cancer, as you know, is caught too late. So collectively, you, all of you who are here, have helped start a movement that has raised the profile of prostate cancer, and in so doing, you have saved lives by encouraging black men to be screened earlier and earlier. I was sitting this morning having breakfast. Someone just came and sat next to me, and someone came by and said, "Hey, Congressman, I'm going to be walking over. I don't know if they're here yet. Dr. Ford, there he is. I'm going to be coming over to the prostate cancer." Dr. Ford, as you walked away, the young lady that was sitting next to me said, "You're having a prostate cancer forum?" I said, "Yes." And she gave me a couple of stories. She told me how 3 individuals, 3 men in her family had been diagnosed with prostate cancer. One, unfortunately, refused to go to the doctor and is no longer with us. 2 did and are with her. And she was just saying how it is, in fact, what you talk about all the time, a family scenario. It's not just an individual, that you got everybody is got to push, whether you have a child or a sister or a spouse or an uncle or an aunt, pushing that one person, pushing someone to go get these exams. And then we need to push on our side to make sure that we do the research so that we understand why it's so prevalent in African-American men. We do that partnership together, our numbers should dwindle, and we should be better off as a result as a nation. So I conclude by just saying, this has become very important to me. I had a different kind of health scare. Some of you might know, I might have said this before. I had one in which I had a heart attack. And, I had been one trying to always watch what I eat, exercise, etc. But it just goes to show, especially if you know and all black men primarily are predisposed to prostate cancer, that no matter what you do, no matter how healthy you think you are, you still need to go get your examinations. You still can be diagnosed with something and don't be afraid of the word. We've got to get away from that freedom. I talked to somebody else and they said, "Well, I don't want to go." This is a former staff member of mine. "I didn't want to go to the doctor because I didn't like the test, or I'm scared of the diagnosis." Don't be scared of the diagnosis. Be thankful of the diagnosis. Be thankful that someone found it. So forums like these, and work with the NIH, the research and advocacy by members of our panel you'll hear from soon, your very presence here today, these all help raise awareness, increase the dialogue, and push more people to take steps toward getting themselves screened. And if you walk away with anything today, I hope you walk away feeling empowered, knowing what we're doing is working and is actively saving lives. And armed with the information analysis, our role, your role, is to go out into our communities, into our workplaces, our campuses, or our barbershops, our houses of worship, and continue raising awareness. Just like we do, we want to stay with our sisters and talk about, the same thing with any cancer, like we do with women with breast cancer awareness, has become something that just rolls out of our mouth. These are the things that we've got to continue to do on a daily basis. So I close with this by saying thank you. Sometimes it's easy for an individual to come because I know I'm talking to the converted. But I'm also talking to the focused and to the dedicated. When I think about the struggles that we've had as a people. It was only a few people, really, that led the civil rights movement. It wasn't a whole bunch of people. There was a few people that led and got the message out to a mass number of individuals that really changed America so that we could be where we are today. Although we got another president in here now that, we got a problem with him. But we'll take care of that next year. So I just want to say to you, thank you for you continuing to stay focused. Because together, collectively working, spreading the awareness, locking arms, not just making this a one-time event. Dr. Farrington wouldn't like that to happen anyways. Because I can tell you also all through the year, I get emails almost every week about something that he's doing and help that he wants, and I'm sure that former Secretary, former Senator Kerry, gets the same thing. So we've got a great leader who is leading the masses of individuals with awareness and responsibility in regards to prostate cancer. You are, to me, when you talk about prostate cancer and the fight against it, what Dr. King was to the civil rights movement, you are to the prostate cancer prevention movement. Thank you, Dr. Farrington, for moving, and thank you for your leadership.
We want to get a picture.
Yes, sir.
All right. I know you got a lot of these.
Oh, that's good.
You don't have those?
I have one in my New York office. I put one in my D.C. office.
Let's slap this way a little bit. Let's give Congressman Gregory Meeks a round of applause. You can see that he is really a great partner leading this fight against prostate cancer as we reach out to Black America across this country. So we're happy, pleased, and honored to have him as our partner and leader in Congress. So as you can see from his passion, he will keep this issue in front of the leaders that set the policies, appropriate the money for this fight against prostate cancer. So thank you. Now I'm going to turn this back over to Reverend Backus, and Reverend Backus is going to continue his sermon, and then you have the program in front of you. So Adrian.
Thank you. One of the things I have learned about preaching is trying to in order to stay on topic, your best bet is to do a manuscript. That way you don't have to be lying on the Holy Spirit saying that it led you in some wrong direction. So you're going to see me put some papers, and it's important because I don't want to really miss a thing. This is really, yesterday we had a great medical knowledge base that was given to us. It was packed. I think all of you, let's give a hand for it. Yesterday was really, really great. We had over 100 and some odd people that came out, and today is really the results of how we work. And this is about the people. We're about on the ground and how we work and where we are and how we're impacting the lives, but most of all, how we're mobilizing people to be in this war, in this fight against prostate cancer. So that's what I'll be presenting today. You'll be dealing with the people side of how we work on the ground, how we work in the air. I've flown enough that I'm so sore the man had to give me a shot in my bursa on the side, whatever that was. But we have been on the move, as I said earlier today. I'm going to move right along here, this is our national education awareness campaign of what we do nationally in this country. It's not local. We're all over the place because knowledge is the best defense against prostate cancer. And I think one major contributor that we have with the prostate cancer process and crisis here is because of, in the African American community, is that we have that lack of awareness and that lack of knowledge. And so we're trying to bridge that gap. And so what you're looking at here are the focus cities and states of where we're located. And I want to give you a little bit of statistical data that I think is going to be real important so you can understand why FIN is the leading group in this country to impact the African American community on this issue of prostate cancer. So you'll see our footprint today. Let's see if I can do the technology here. Here we go. We're addressing an urgent national issue. Let's understand that this is really urgent. Remember I said the time is now. We can't wait on this tomorrow or what should have been with my uncle, the time is now. Black America is most impacted by prostate cancer with the statistics that we've looked at. And we need to be the most knowledgeable. So therefore, our programs are to educate and support patients and their families and to raise awareness, mobilize communities, but we're also being advocates on their behalf. These are the cities, focus cities of where we are in states: Alabama, Georgia, Maryland, Mississippi, New York, Pennsylvania, Texas, Wisconsin. As you can see, we're spread all over: California, Illinois, Massachusetts, Missouri, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Florida, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Tennessee, Washington, D.C., and with some programs, we're even in other states because of the way our programs run. The U.S. population, black population, non-Hispanic, the number totals about 37 million. If you're looking at, if they do, recent studies have shown if you're having multicultural initiative, relative to the black community, it might be around 42 million, but we're looking at that 37 million. And we are, in those states that we showed you, we're representing the 36, 696, 932. So we're covering a large majority of who we are and the people that we wish to serve. But what's most important, as we work with the Congressional Black Caucus, is that our outreach covers 98% of the 55 members, Congressional Black Caucus member states, as you heard the Congressman said here today. Our programs and our initiatives would be our FIN Survivor Network Community Outreach Program, monthly educational programs in our webcast, social media, via Facebook. We've worked with many churches doing that this year. The annual Disparity Summit that you've attended here for the 2 days. We have FIN Television, monthly e-newsletters, annual Father's Day rally where we work with our churches during Father's Day, where we have a service and they're called up, all the survivors and their supporters and loved ones, and that's throughout the country. That probably about 750,000 pieces of literature are sent around this country in support of that. Our educational symposium, those 2-hour symposiums where we bring doctors to you. We're in your face, and that's a good thing of where we need to be. Clinical trials rally is critical for us. We heard about that yesterday, and then we have this great thing going around in the night. Hopefully you will be out for our Daddy's Boys stage play. You'll hear more about that in a few minutes. Our online outreach, you know, when you're in any kind of war zone like I was in Rwanda, you got to have a tactical position. So we got air and we got ground. So now we're going to the airways. We're online in the 21st century. We got webcasts going, social media we're doing, and we have the FIN television, and we have our e-newsletters. And for our clinical trials rallies, we're doing that. So we have an air campaign, online campaign. We're jumping out of planes straight down to get on the ground for our grassroots. I do everything but a parachute because when you're working with Thomas Farrington, I don't know what he has, but this man will stay on the plane, get off a plane, and call you where you are to see if you're on one or getting off of one. I can't keep up with him. I'm not even going to try. But we have our FIN network group. You'll see the survivors, they're happy. You'll see us in those blue shirts, and you'll see it tonight with the letters FIN up there. We don't want you to not know who we are. We should be a household word in every black household and church or wherever it might be in this country. That's how critical it is. So you'll see our Fin network, they're on the ground, they're deployed. Let me just tell you, educational symposiums, our Father's Day rallies, oh man, that's a great, if you never experienced that, you'll see the people at the church, they come out for the symposiums, our clinical rallies, and boy, let me tell you, this stage play, we're gonna be talking about that. Folks have come out from the cracks, as my mother used to say. Our partners, we could not do this job without you. We could not do a human job without a human face. Our churches have been one of our key components as a way of deploying many of our programs across this country. Pharmaceutical companies, you heard from them yesterday, have been very involved with things they're trying to do. Our healthcare providers, our cancer centers and hospitals have been in support with us in partnership. Universities and colleges, many of our HBCUs and many other universities, medical centers, Alzheimer's institutes, people who are even it's a cross-disciplinary piece, are very involved with what Tom Farrington is doing with prostate cancer. AARP has been a big partner over the last year in seeing that we have support with our plays and others, blackdoctors.org. Very, very big in getting things out, and our doors are open for new partners. Now, here are some highlights from last year to give you an idea that really, I think I do work for my keep, as my mother used to say. We've gotten 700 plus Fin new network members here that we have overall with what we're doing. 500 plus church partners. We boast about that because they're really, really not only educating their different constituents, as I mentioned last year about the church, the black church, if you know anything about our history in terms of disparities, economic as well as in health, which is the area, that's the key piece. I think about 90% of persons go to the church looking for healthcare services. We should understand that, so that's a key component for us. Our monthly social media outreach programs, we average about 5,000 unique viewers. We do that, I think, once a month. I think it's every Tuesday of the month that we have a lot of our programs that are webcast from Boston. Our Daddy's Boys Plays. Let me tell you, when we parachute, come out of the plane, and hit on the ground, we have had over 11,000 attendees. We got 2 more plays, the one tonight and the next one will be in Boston, and the houses usually fill beyond 1,000 people. And when they come out, they're happy. We'll show you the statistics of that. Then we hosted probably and participated in about 175 educational symposiums, our Father's Day rallies, and other events across the nation. So what are we looking at for our strategies for the upcoming year? We're looking to grow and expand and strengthen this national educational awareness group in our programs, and we're hoping that you, your churches, your spouses, your loved ones, your families will be in this joint outreach approach with us. We hope to expand on our base so that we can get the people who are involved actively participating in clinical trials. We need that, you heard that, and the significance of that in terms of trying to determine how to support us and heal us. The research programs as well, we're hoping to actively bring the group and people that we're working with across the country and with others, hand in hand, to be able to participate in these so we'll know how we can stay healthy and have long lives in the next generation as well. That's what's critical in all of this. We'll continue to collaborate with the CBC members to raise advocacy efforts and shape policies and programs. I think several of us were on the Hill several weeks ago. If you've never worked on the Hill, it taught me how to buy a new pair of shoes because you can't wear wooden shoes. I can't be dressed up like Dr. Farrington there. I don't know how he does it. I got to get me some easy walkers. I don't have something like that, them things he got, but he's there looking good, and I'm going to look just as bad. I might as well have broken boots. Here we go. So I think at this point, Mr. Farrington, I think I would stop it here because we're going to, the next phase of what we'll do, and we're trying to keep with the time frame. I think I brought us right up to time. Are there any questions before we go into the Daddy's Boys stage play portion of what we do? But at this time, if you have any questions on what I've said about our outreach program across the nation, and certainly you are participating or will participate in that, are there any questions? Anyone, any questions? Yes, sir. There's a mic there. If you introduce yourself and glad.
Can't hear you.
I was wondering if Ben is working with American Cancer Society. I know that they're really trying to bridge the gap in disparities and quality and equity in aggressive outreach right now. I attended a panel discussion in San Francisco about 3 weeks ago, and that was front and center to the National Board of the American Cancer Society, that I think that they need to know our community and understand our community, and their national board needs to reflect the diversity of the communities around the country. So I was wondering if we're doing any kind of collaboration.
Yes, actually on yesterday we had a representative from the American Cancer Society, Mark, who's very interested in working with us. They're doing a national survey. He said they had brought about, I think he told me 60 or so odd states, even people from Guam around, and they're recognizing that they need to have more inclusion in terms of other ethnic groups, minority ethnic groups that they don't have. So he certainly, like everybody else, has heard about Finn. He had a nice suit on yesterday. I told him, man, if you want us, I got to see you. And so he showed up with a big smile on his face, very eager, and talked with many of the members of our staff and Mr. Farrington about our involvement and what we're doing, particularly with the kind of data and information that we're going, again, because we're the strongest ground campaign that's going within the community. So yes, sir, we have started that. He's very eager to do that, and I think he met many of my colleagues yesterday. I hope that's the answer to your question. Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Washington, D.C., I am here in Greenbelt. So I am here, and also Dr. Artie Shelton. Even though he works with the veterans, he's always been a good representative in some areas for what we do with Finn. And in North Carolina, there are some ladies that drove all the way up here. They go everywhere I go with the play. Where are those lovely ladies? Put your hand up here. This is like church. Is somebody on the deacon board? Somebody in the flower shop? Right here are two young ladies, and not only that, when it comes to the play, ma'am, you'll see later on, we have the play characters there in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Yes? We came to Fuquay. We had in Fuquay this year at, what was the name? Begin for B, a Baptist church in Fuquay this year, actually. Oh. Yes. Yes, ma'am. No, we're there. As you saw, North Carolina is a critical state. And the great thing about it is that myself, Mr. Farrington, Ms. Farrington, we're from North Carolina. We're not going to leave you out. But any other questions, we'd love to have you because we need your participation. And thank you, because that's what we're looking for. We need a network. We want to continue and grow that network. It's very important. Any other questions in terms of our outreach plan? So I'll move on now to Daddy's Boys. I think you've heard a lot about it. That's entertaining to educate. We call it infotainment, providing information and entertainment. And we launched this in 2018. It's been highly successful. And we're going to look at that as part of certainly our 2020 plans of where we're going. You know, the good thing I like about 2020, because I'm in bad shape, is that it gives you perfect vision. So I haven't had perfect vision in a long time, but we're keying right on in now. 2020 has got to be one of the best years ever for everything happen. And we want Black America to wake up and be a visionary and move us where we need to be. These are the cities and locations, believe it or not, in 1 year that I, along with the staff, you'll hear about them. We jumped out with parachutes and everything, hitting the ground with materials, and we've been around now because we were in Philadelphia at the Kirk Center, and that was with Enon Tabernacle, Glendale, Reed Temple. I see Reverend Deck here, who's a key partner of ours at that church here in Maryland. Richmond, Virginia, St. Paul's Baptist Church. We've been there. Detroit, we were in the theater there with AARP in Michigan. Fayetteville, North Carolina. We were at Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church, and we were at Fayetteville again with Fayetteville State University. We certainly came there to Winston-Salem. We were there with Winston-Salem State University, Greensboro, North Carolina, with Mount Zion Baptist Church. Atlanta, boy, Riverside Epicenter, we had to turn people away because they were there. And then they called them next week to see if we could bring another production. It was full. Jacksonville, Florida. We had some people be here from Jacksonville today speaking. And that was a wonderful experience. Birmingham, Alabama. Milwaukee, Birmingham, we were with our bishop, the head of the ALB church now, in terms of bishops, Dr. Harry C. Wright. Bishop C. Wright was there. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the Marcus Performing Arts with AARP and the Medical College of Wisconsin. New Orleans, man, that was a pretty good trip too. Southern University, We were there. They had we were the first performance that they had in a brand new auditorium. I mean, it was huge, wasn't it, Tom and Garrett? And they had not had, and they just built that. Remember when the New Orleans came, it wiped all of their campus pieces, buildings away. It was a beautiful facility, and they were so happy to receive us. We could still see a little dust on the floor from the construction, but it was a wonderful performance, and the people were very gracious to have us. Landover, Maryland will be where we'll be tonight with Reverend Davis. I was out there late last night. They're waiting for us. Man, they got chairs and stuff. The only thing I didn't get was no chicken. But they're going to have something. They're going to be waiting for us out there in Landover tonight. And then our last performance of this year will be the John Hancock Hall. The Farringtons are doing wonderful along with the staff up there in Boston. That's the home of Finn. So you know it's going to be a turnout up there. If you hear that something went on up there, another revolution, and whatever went on there, it's because of Finn. Okay, Tom, I know I'm talking too much, so I better move along. Let's get with the survey. One of the things that we do, because many of our sponsors, if you look on our playbills and you see all the people that came out yesterday, they've been supporting this. And one of the things that I'll tell you at a play, Gary and them will tell you, if Adrian comes at the end and I don't have any ushers, I'm the only usher left. And so when I say we give surveys, and that's the most critical part of this, we really want to hear the input of the audience and attendees of, have you learned anything from this? Have you been motivated to do this thing? One of the things I've learned with Thomas Farrington is he said, in every place that we have a footprint, we need to be leaving there with a Finn support group. And that's it, because you can't do anything unless you have somebody on the ground to keep it moving. And so we asked the questions, as you hear, were you aware of prostate cancer? 72% of the audience in all of those plays that you saw said yes. Did the play Daddy's Boys increase your knowledge about prostate? 96% across the board have said that. Are you interested in learning more about prostate cancer, screening, treatments, clinical trials? 72%. What you should understand too is that in many of the places we go, we also do PSA testing. We may have a mobile unit. Tom has partners that have come with us, and in some places we've had 60 or 50 or whatever it might be to get screened on the spot. We have one partner that we've worked with for years in Philadelphia, Enon, and they've gone up to about 702 screenings a year with the program that they do. And so that's what we need to do. Here's some of the feedback. A person was an oncologist and said that this play was excellent. Information for entertainment. Awesome. I hear that all the time, even from the little kids. There was one lady that wrote us back from one of the pharmaceutical companies. Her grandchild went home and wrote a paper on it and told his dad and mom and all the rest of them they need to come and see the play. Enjoyed the show. It delivered a positive message and brought about awareness to us. It was wonderful singing. We got some great singing out here. We give them a little fish before and a little bit of lemon juice, and boy, they can sing through that fish. And sometimes if we really want them to sing, we don't feed them. And so, but they can squeal at that point. You got some good, but we got some good entertainers, so it's a very entertaining show. We have a great job, as they said, in Finn, 1 in 5 black men of the information they get. We're looking at 2020. Again, good vision here of where we might go in the upcoming year as we look for partners. Atlanta, Georgia, Philadelphia, Baltimore. We heard that yesterday from some people. Newark, New Jersey, San Antonio, Norfolk, Hampton, Virginia Beach is a critical area. We found with our symposiums, with the information we're getting out of Chesapeake and other places of what's happening there. Oakland, I just left Oakland before in April, and a whole high percentages of what's going on there. We were out at BB Memorial, but we'll be bringing the play there possibly. Chicago, we almost got there this year on our way to Wisconsin, but we had to change a little partnership. Charlotte, Raleigh, Durham, Greenville, South Carolina, Nashville, Tennessee. We were almost there. We looked at 2 sites during the year, but we hope next year. St. Louis, New York, Houston, Dallas, and Jackson, Mississippi. That's kind of where we're looking for. Now I'd like to present and introduce to you Mr. Garrett Davis. Garrett is the actual producer of Daddy's Boys and writes for many years, have written plenty of plays in the healthcare industry that he's produced. And he got together with Mr. Farrington, and these guys got together. Old Farrington became a script writer, and Garrett kind of beat him in shape, and then he beat Garrett in shape. So they've been doing a partnership that's been tremendous. And now, Garrett, I'd like for you to introduce yourself and your staff and come up at this time and present. Thank you. Before I let him do that, our last initiative we'll be talking about today also we're excited about is our new Veterans Initiative. We will be doing, and that would include Dr. Shelton, Dr. Rowan and Mr. Meriweather, but we have had a major outreach with our Vietnam Veterans Association or organization, and we work with Dr. Artie Shelton. That's going to be a tremendous piece that we're doing too. And actually, we have a gentleman that's here from Jacksonville, because what happened with some of the plays and things, these groups have gotten together at local posts, and we're looking again. We're deploying people, so it doesn't matter who you are. We can deploy your baby, the baby, anything. We'll wear a T-shirt, but we're here doing that. But come on up, Garrett, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Which goes forward.
Thank you. If you change the way a person feels, you can change the way a person thinks. If you can change the way a person thinks, then you can change them into doing something they should be doing. So how do you change the way a person feels? Well, I took care of my grandmother for a little while because she had Alzheimer's. So the last thing I'd want to see is an Alzheimer's play. If you're working hard and doing a lot of things, the last thing you want to see is what you're faced with. But believe it or not, people learn differently. We can't treat everybody the same. We have to treat everybody fair. And treating everybody fair means going above and beyond for some group of people. And so I want to take this time on behalf of G. Davis Production to applaud Thomas Farrington and his wife for the work they're doing with the Prostate Health Education Network. So we have been touring plays for close to 30 years. We started in 1994. And we have worked with organizations like the American Diabetes Association with a play called Mama's Girls that deal with 5 women from 5 different cities trying to take care of their aging mother. You know the story. 1 can raise 5, but 5 can't raise 1 because we get so busy in life. American Heart Association with a play called Sisters at Heart. The Alzheimer's Association with a play called Forget Me Not. AARP with Mama's Girls. Us Against Alzheimer's, Forget Me Not. But last and importantly, the Prostate Health Education with Daddy's Boys. So we have been in business for a while. Forget Me Not is one of the longest running urban stage plays in the country, 12 consecutive years. It's not that the play is so good. I'll be the first to tell you. But it's because we're reaching people where they are. And a lot of times, if I go to a play and I see something that's going to educate me about how to deal with Alzheimer's and dementia, well, the next time I go to the doctor's office, now I'm going to listen to that doctor more. Now I'm going to pick up that pamphlet. Mama's Girls, 9 consecutive years. And the Baby Boy, Daddy's Boys, 2 years and running. And I anticipate we're going to be around for a long time. So Daddy's Boys, all the plays that I've done, there's something special about Daddy's Boys. What's special about Daddy's Boys? Most plays are stereotyped. You have a grandmama who's praying. You have a daddy who's not there. And you have a mama doing everything. And you have kids off the hook. That's the stereotype of black plays. I chose not to do that. I chose, if I was going to do a play about black males, I want to show the positive side of black males. And so the father in this play is very educated and very successful. But he was not there in his children's lives, not because he wasn't a good dad, because he was working, trying to make something for them. He wanted them to have a better life than he did. But he wasn't there. He thought money could replace care. So you can pretend to be there. I mean, you can pretend to care, but you can't pretend to be there. And so we wrote Daddy's Boys about a father and his 3 sons. I'll tell my age. I grew up watching a show called My 3 Sons. I don't know if anybody remember that show. A father and his 3 sons. One is spoiled brat. One is educated. One is off doing his own thing. In all families. He has prostate cancer. And so now the family has to come together and deal with this. And so it is very, very real. And so we deal with information, and you learn a lot about what daddy is going through and how he's dealing with his sons. And so what happens is now you want to go back home and have a conversation with your father or your mother. Someone asked me, what's the difference between you and Tyler Perry, other than he has more money? You leave Tyler Perry play, and you want to go home, you get your girlfriend, so let's go have a drink of wine, and we're going to watch a Tyler Perry play. You leave a G. Davis production, you're going to go home, you're going to have a serious conversation about life. You're going to have a serious conversation about what's next. What's next for, I just saw a play, I saw myself on that stage, and Congressman told a story about, one person died and the other two survived. That's a story. You're going to see a story tonight, and you're going to go home because you don't want that story to be your family. That's the difference when you come see what we're doing. So we've created a movement with men on prostate cancer. Statistics say that majority of people that come to African-American plays are black females 35 to 54. But watch how many men you see in the house tonight. And they're not going to outdo the women, but you're going to see a lot of men in the house tonight. Now, we believe that women are the backbone of the family, so we have to make sure they get the information, because we know men, we're not going to go to the doctor until we're almost ready to go to the funeral. But women will do their best. Once they're educated in the issue, they will do their best to nudge us and push us along. Change the narrative on clinical trials. That's what we're doing, not just with this play, with all of our plays. You got to change the narrative on clinical trials. People get stuck on Tuskegee, but because of Tuskegee, things are totally different now. Clinical trial is more than just shooting somebody a shot in the arm. It's not about that anymore. And so you'll see tonight how we tackle clinical trials. Educate the entire family on the importance of men getting checked up. The entire family. Now, men, we don't like to communicate. We don't like to talk. But you're going to see how Unc tonight, who's a character, who had prostate cancer and dealt with it with his own way, and it'll resonate with people in the audience. Various social media campaigns to keep the prostate top of mind, connect resource agencies, and more. And so what's next? Now that we've built a foundation of these last 2 years, it's time to take Daddy's Boys to the next level. How do you take Daddy's Boys to the next level? We've got to have a social media campaign. So those that are coming to the play tonight, you're going to have a favorite character. I guarantee you one of them is going to be Unc. So why not have a social media campaign with Unc in character talking about, men, it's important to go get checked up, regardless of how old you are. And so now you're using the play has spawned out into something else. We're using those characters in the play to start social media campaigns to connect to a younger audience. You're going to hear us give a statistic about when you get 40, you need to go get checked out. Well, if I'm 20, I need to know. Because at 20, and 25 and 30, I'm not thinking about retirement. I'm not thinking about caregiving. I'm not thinking about all that stuff. But if something happens to my father or my mother, my life changes forever the next day. And so why wait until something happens? And so this play is a big foundation to be able to reach a younger audience, to get younger men involved and educated about their own body, prostate. Because if I can't take care of myself as head of the house, how can I take care of my wife? How can I take care of my kids? How can I take care of my family? I've got to be able to do this. Interactive communication via the Daddy's Boys website. So one of the things, with Tom doing the webinar and things like that, we want to make sure that young people get this. Prostate cancer is not an old disease. Cancer is not an old disease. Prostate cancer does not discriminate either. So why not mobilize this big following that we have with the play? They're just not coming to get entertained. They're being educated. And we can put that in a shell and teach young people how to teach their brothers and sisters about the importance of this, then we've made a big difference. Involving technology and Daddy's Boy production to involve video presentation and messaging by our national sponsors and fan. So in other words, what we want to do next year in 2020, that hour before the play starts, we want to have video messaging playing like a TV commercial, talking about having the actors talk about certain things with prostate cancer. We want to engage them as much as possible. We want to focus on the experience. So when you leave there, your whole mind, because you're feeling a certain way, now you're thinking a certain way, now you're going to do something differently. So I'm excited about what we've done with Daddy's Boys. Of all the plays that I've written, this one is special because it looks at African-American men in a totally different light. It can touch African-American men in a totally different light. And it's unique and special because you can reach out and touch someone that has been through something. So I want to introduce a couple members of my staff. All my 3 members of my executive staff are with me. 2 of them are actually Daddy's Boys, playing Junior and the eldest son, Kenneth Pierce Sr. The spoiled brat, playing Chuck, Dartez, right? And Kenya Milam, who works very closely with us on Daddy's Boys. So at this point, I want to bring Ken and Dartez up to talk. I want you to hear from an actor's point of view what people are saying to them after the show. What people are saying to them, when they email them and talk about what they've seen, what men are saying to them. So I want you guys to come up and hear from the anchor standpoint, because this isn't just, we're just not having fun in city to city and doing everything that Adrian tells us to do. We're actually, this is a family, and it's a ministry to us. It really is. It's a ministry to us, because at the same time, if we can change one life, then our living will not be in vain.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. So the play Daddy's Boys, the different dynamics that take place with this particular stage play, it's a broken family, and my job was to come in and make sure that the message was clear that we always have individuals that pick up the pieces when maybe the father is out of place. And it doesn't have to mean that, like Garrett, to Garrett's point, that the father is actually physically absent from the home, but he's in the home. But his ideal of support was financial, you know, give. And so oftentimes you have an uncle around or even an older brother to kind of pick up the pieces. So when my role was written, it was that this individual that had a great mind, excelled in school, fell on hard times where he had to take care of his mom, now his father, and also look out for his brother. But how do you do that and balance a family at the same time, being so young? Oftentimes we make it work, right? We make it work because we're so prone to go and do. But you'll see that at some point, you become empty. And so Junior's role, he has a breakdown because he's empty. He doesn't know where to pull from. How do you be strong for someone else when you're broken? And so it's never too late to repair those relationships. And so that's what we focus on. It's never too late to really repair those relationships. They're broken, they're fragile. But we can mend it through time, through healing. And things, you know, unfortunately, events happen to whereas we can't get to the point to whereas we say, okay, I'm sorry. But if you have that moment to repair it, go back and fix it. Go back and fix it because it's worth it. I just had a friend of mine, quick story. He's, and I don't know many of you, if you follow the music industry, 400 records sold, 400 million records sold. Passed the day after Labor Day, head-on collision, died instantly. LaShawn Daniels was responsible for working with the king of pop, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, all of these big names. I was fortunate enough to sit in a room with him just a couple of months ago, because from a songwriter standpoint, he was a guy that I looked at. And I heard his friends say, I wish I had more time after. What kind of impact are you leaving with the individuals that are around you? So Daddy's Boys tackle different areas, but we make you look at the whole spectrum and say, okay, this is someone's reality. Someone is going through this diagnosis. Mentally, how do you prepare yourself? That's what we focus on.
Good morning, good morning. I'm probably the youngest person in the room. I'm 30 years old. But this play, outside of the play, it really changed my life. As a young man, I never understood the importance of my health. I think I'm 30, I'm gonna live forever. And so me doing this play helps me educate men my age to be proactive and not reactive. And so a lot of times after the shows, we get grown men to come up crying. We get family members to come up crying, and they tell us, how their life was impacted due to prostate cancer. This play is changing lives. It will change lives. It has changed lives. And I hope that we can continue to change lives. Thank you.
So in conclusion, when you have all those emotions in one room, what's sinful is they have nowhere to go afterwards. And that's why it's important to make sure the Prostate Health Education Network stays alive, because they're there. And it's also important to make sure you're connected with them. Because when you've got, let's say, 1,500 people in that room tonight, and their emotions are flowing, that's why they have to go by that product table and see Adrian. That's why they have to, after the play is over with, they're calling Finn. It's important. Finn can handle it all by themselves. Those networks are so, so important. That's why the other events like the web series and the webinars and the Father's Day programs are important. Tonight you will see, the surface ripped off. And what can you do with all those emotions? I now encourage you, if you come to see the play tonight, and if you're in whatever other city, how can you partner with Tom to make sure this comes to your community and impacts your community? Thank you so much.
I want to thank Mr. Davis for his presentation. We're going to move forward into our next session that we have. And I'm going to say a bit on Dr. Artie Shelton. This is with the veterans who want to come up, Lauren and Mr. Meriweather. We're going to go ahead and move right in. We're going to, as I said, we're on the move. Yeah, we're going to go ahead so they'll present there. So hang on. But let me just give you, I'm going to introduce Dr. Shelton. And I'm going to, like with Daddy's Boys, they call me Mr. Adrian. If you ever from North Carolina, South Carolina, you know what Mr. Adrian is like, your uncle or your grandmom or somebody. When they see me coming, so I either got to bring ribs or chicken to them. So it's family. Well, Dr. Artie Shelton and Ms. Clara, they have been family too. Doctor, you have to know. But so Artie, I know that you like church people who just say, I'm a child of God, don't read my resume. But I got to read something because you have to know, my mother was the type to let it, she was proud of her children. We're very proud of Dr. Shelton, so I want to read something about his bio that I think is very gracious so you understand his giving and who he is. Dr. Shelton received his BS and MS and MD degrees from Howard University. He had an Upjohn Research Scholarship Award from Howard in 1974. His training was done at Walter Reed Army Medical Center, and he received a training fellowship for adult pediatric allergy and immunology at the National Institute of Health. Artie served 21 years in the U.S. Army and reached the rank of colonel. So he's Colonel Artie Shelton. He retired honorable distinguished. He served the continental United States, overseas, congressional staffers, chief of the Department in Primary Care and Community Medicine. He's the chief of the Department of Medicine in USA MEDAC. He was the chief professional service in Bremerhaven, I think it was West Germany. Art has just been all over the place. He was appointed, but recently Art has been appointed as the director of the Veterans Affairs Health Council. And we have been so fortunate. Tom introduced me to Artie. And I have had the fortunate benefit of having this man, particularly here in Washington and just across the country, to be with me, to skill me and teach me on how to touch lives. When he goes to churches, he's at the altar with people. So we're very fortunate. And now he's with this administration and organization. And so he's not one of my children, I'm one of his, finally. And so I introduce to you and present to others Dr. Artie Shelton.
Thank you, Adrian. Are you able to hear me? Good morning. Like Tom said, you don't want to follow behind a reverend or little kids on the stage. And I think all I need to say is amen, after that. One of the things I like to do is to also thank Tom Farrington and Juarez. I'm a 16-year prostate cancer survivor. I'm a physician, but thank you. But let me mention to you that even though I'm a physician, that when I was given the diagnosis of prostate cancer, I was really mortified and stressful. And I was very compassionate when I have to tell my patients that they also have cancer or a certain type of disease. And so I needed someone to go to, and I needed some mentoring. And as the Congressman Meeks said, I went to Dr. Farrington and Finn. And they really helped me through my journey with prostate cancer. So once again, I want to thank Tom Farrington, Juarez, and Finn for really what they do for taking care of for men with prostate cancer. So thank you very much. I have the distinct honor, really, of introducing, John Rowan. One of the things I'm doing now is that I'm also the director of the Veterans Health Council for Vietnam Veterans of America. And I was very fortunate to meet with John Rowan, who was reelected for the 8th term as the national president of Vietnam Veterans of America. And we had a convention, and the 19th convention in Spokane, Washington, and he was reelected for the eighth term. He served in the military in 1965, and Mr. Rowan is responsible for 84,000 members of the members within the Vietnam Veterans Administration or organization. So I'd like for Mr. Rowan just to say a few words.
Thank you, Artie. It's fun. One of the things you get about being a veteran is you're not in the military anymore. So I was a sergeant, an E4 sergeant, for those of you who that means anything to. And of course, to have a colonel work for me is really fun. But I want to thank Artie for getting me to show up today to come to see you folks and to get to know this organization. Prostate cancer is a problem that we've been well aware of for a very long time in the Vietnam veterans community. For the 40 years of our existence, we have been battling what is now commonly known as Agent Orange. Really, it was all of these horrible chemicals they used all over Vietnam to get rid of vegetation to make it easier to see the enemy. Well, Agent Orange has killed more Vietnam veterans than the VC ever did. Just hundreds of thousands of us are sick and dying or dead from various ailments, not the least of which is prostate cancer. So I've heard statistics on Vietnam veterans that we're more than 3 times more likely to get prostate cancer than our peers. So I hate to think of the combination being a black Vietnam veteran. I mean, I can't even imagine what the odds go up to. And that's something, again, that isn't very well known. So we've been reaching out on health issues for many, many years because of these exposure issues, toxic exposures. The biggest thing, again, how many people here have heard the words Agent Orange? See, it's become common. But to know what it really is, first of all, I was just one of many agents. But the bottom line was dioxin was the horrible aspect of these chemicals that we use to kill vegetation. And if you look back, it seems to me it makes sense when you came in and sprayed an area and the next day everything living in it was dead, including the animals and the plants. Should give you a hint that it wasn't a good idea to hang around there. So, but now we are looking even further beyond our period of time and what's been exposed with the Vietnam veterans to all the veterans who've come after us, and frankly, to some extent, to all of you in your home. I mean, you saw the thing with Roundup just recently. They won a big lawsuit to expose. I mean, you went around spraying weeds, and who figured you're killing yourself every time you're spraying this thing? I mean, it's crazy. But we are doing, you know, I remember as a kid, and some of the folks in the room may remember as well, if you're in my age bracket, I'll be 74 next week. Better Living Through Chemistry was an ad on TV when I was a kid. It should be now Better Dying Through Chemistry, unfortunately, because we don't know what we were doing to ourselves. So we are in the midst, and have been for many years, in an education program just like yours. You're trying to educate your community about the issues of prostate cancer. We're trying to educate everybody about all of the issues. Unfortunately, the laundry list of issues associated with Agent Orange is unbelievable. Prostate cancer, lung cancer, multiple myeloma, diabetes. They were doing studies of the folks who sprayed the Agent Orange in Vietnam as to figure out what was going wrong or what kind of health impact they had. And they were looking for percent deviations on cancer. And then one day, one of the researchers woke up and said, wait a second, half these guys are diabetic. Why? Because of Agent Orange. But we think this has gone on as well for the Persian Gulf veterans from 1990. Just think what it was like to be one of those men or women standing there in an area where sarin gas is kicking around, where oil well fires have turned the whole place into a giant black cloud, and never mind the day-to-day stuff. Today, in the last 18 years, we've been fighting wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. There's no EPA in Iraq and Afghanistan, so what do? They burn everything. You talk to the veterans who come home who've sat anywhere near or worked or lived in anywhere near those burn pits, and they will tell you what the smell was like and what the problems were like. We are poisoning ourselves, and we're poisoning. One of the things that I'm going to be working with Dr. Artie and his staff and some of our other staff on over the next couple of years is our concern about pollution here in the United States, in the bases, in the air bases, in the Marine bases, in the Navy bases, and the Army bases around this country that are affecting the environment. There are many, many places that live next to air bases that have water pollution problems, serious water pollution problems. Make Flint, Michigan look like nothing. And in fact, there is another town right in southern Michigan that's also got serious problems. So I thank you for this opportunity to come in. I know that Artie's produced some pamphlets and things for you to take a look at, and we urge you to do that. I urge you to reach out to the veterans in your community as well, because they're doubly hit if they're Vietnam veterans, and frankly, even the younger veterans and newer veterans. I had a cousin who came home after his second tour in Iraq and got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in his shoulder in his 40s. And one of the things that really concerns us is the multiple generational aspect of this. We believe it not only affected the Vietnam veterans, it affected our kids and now even our grandkids and maybe even our great-grandkids that we're getting so old. And my cousin is another example of what may be going on with the younger veterans. He was in his 40s, mid-40s, when he came back from his second tour as a reservist in the Navy, Seabee. He came down with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is one of the big dioxin cancers, in his shoulder. And his third child was born with Down syndrome. Is there a connection? Who knows? Nobody's doing research. The congressman talked earlier about research. By the way, the congressman's district is where I go for my outpatient clinic programs. I'm a 100% disabled veteran from Agent Orange. He needs more research money, and I intend to go back and talk to one of the other congresswomen that he mentioned, the lady named Nita Lowy, I've known for many years, to talk about research money. I thank you for doing this. I thank you for getting the word out, and I hope you continue to get the word out. And I really urge you to try to reach out to the veterans in your community, because quite honestly, we have not done that very well, and we've had a hard time with the veterans. The veterans who came home, especially from Vietnam, didn't get a very good response. This wasn't like it is today. Not everybody's, I still kind of, not cringe, but I kind of like, when somebody thanks me for my service, which was 52 years ago. The black veterans who came home had it even worse. I can tell you that from the few that I know that I've worked with over the years. One of my predecessors, George Duggins, died from cancer. He came from Virginia in his 50s. So I urge you, go home. When you do your outreach and on this prostate cancer issue, make sure to include the veterans as well. And again, thank you for all the work you do. It's really magnificent, and I thank you for letting us have an opportunity to talk to you about the veterans issues.
Thank you, Mr. Rowan, for those comments with the veterans. We have been working with and supporting veterans for a number of years. Now, what we are embarking on now is a special initiative to outreach to the veterans. And I would say it's very fortuitous that Dr. Artie Shelton is now your director of the Medical Council, because Dr. Shelton has been one of our leaders at Finn for a number of years. He's, as Adrian pointed out, with our Daddy's Boys plays, he's been all around the country with us. I think at all of these symposiums, Dr. Shelton has played a role. So I just want to let you know, you have a great man with you.
Oh, no,
you have a very, you understand that.
I'm very grateful.
All right. So what I want to do is to talk about a veteran that we've brought here today who's a member of the Finn Network, because what we'd like to do wherever we go around the country with our symposiums, with our Daddy's Boys plays, is we like to find a way to leave something in place that can be permanent and can grow out and continue to serve the community. That's really one of the things that we like to focus on. So I'm going to introduce Mr. A.J. Meriweather, and I know we have a slide somewhere that will be, that you can put up. Jerry, Mr. George, we have a slide. But as they're putting that up, just let me introduce AJ. AJ is a young man. Anybody who may be a little bit younger than me can be a month. I call him a young man, and I think he's a couple of months younger than me. But AJ is someone that I met in Florida some years ago, as I came down to participate in a program there. And talking with he and his wife, Callie, who's here today as well, I was really struck by his passion and his commitment and dedication to the fight against prostate cancer. He was a man that, and you can see, when I go around the country, I can see those men and those women who really will make a difference where they are. And when I had a chance to talk with him, I said that AJ is special. He is a person that is on the ground, who is well respected, because other people see that passion as well. So when we took Daddy's Boys to Jacksonville, AJ was out front with us, working to help us get things in place, working to help us to outreach to get the audience there. And when we left, well, before that, if we can find the video, when we wanted to put together a panel to workshop at that program, we tasked AJ to find those members of that panel. And who he found, they were all Vietnam veterans. And so one of the good things is they were really all survivors, all passionate about the fight against prostate cancer. But when we left, AJ and this team did not want to let loose. And to me, that's a good thing. That's what we want. So what we have been able to do working with AJ and the veteran group is to, with his veterans post, and that post, AJ, what is that post? Post 197. American Legion Post 197. We now have established a support group there who tune in the second Wednesday of every month of our webcasts. They bring them together, and they are now outreaching with materials throughout the community of Jacksonville. And as I said, that's our vision. We want to mobilize, educate, and expand. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you A.J. Meriweather. He's going to talk about his work, his mission, and I would say that he's working with Finn, but he had a black males prostate cancer group. He still has it in Jacksonville. And before we even took the play, I would get messages from AJ. Tom, do you have any more materials? I run out of materials. I've been to this church. And sometimes I think we're printing company for AJ because we had to send him packages. It's hard to keep AJ in packages. So I want to introduce you to a true warrior in the fight of prostate cancer, Mr. A.J. Meriweather.
Good morning, everyone. Allow me a few minutes just to have a conversation. Let's just talk about the journey. It's a few points I'm going to hit. I'm going to be rambling because in a crowd like this, I'm not in my lane. I'm not in my environment. My environment is on the ground, questioning you, getting you to challenge me, getting interaction. That's what gets me motivated. But when I'm standing still and I'm looking out in this audience and I'm trying to find someone to pinpoint so I can get from up here, y'all know the feeling. But let's just talk about the journey. I'm a 8-year survivor of prostate cancer. Didn't know nobody. At the time of my diagnosis, a little background, didn't know nobody who looked like me. Didn't know nobody who could tell me anything. I'm also an 18-month survivor of stage 3 lung cancer, 3 spinal surgery, a veteran. But you know, I know this audience, some of you can understand Jeremiah 29:11. I'm a little nervous, y'all, because I'm trying to get out of here. But in Jeremiah 29:11, it's always said God knows the plan he has for us, and it's for good. As I prepared to come up here from Jacksonville, Florida, and I was talking to Tom, and I was trying to write these notes, he said, look at he said, look at AJ. I don't want that AJ. I want the one. That's it. That's it. Forgive the interruption. Lost my train of thought, so we'll speed on up. But basically, I lost my thought now. But the point is, as a 18-month survivor of stage 3 lung cancer, given 2 years to live, I'm at 18 months now. But in Jeremiah, God knows the plan he has for us. Some people would think this statement I'm going to say to y'all is crazy, but I thank God for cancer. And you say, why you say that? It's because if it wasn't for cancer, I wouldn't be here standing in front of you. Because why would I be standing here in front of you if Tom didn't know me? So that means cancer have given me a footprint through God, say, I'm going to use you to go out and tell how I healed you. How does that relate to a veterans issue? One of the things with veteran issue is we want to keep it real. We can talk all that technical stuff and all the data, but at the end of the day, the guy going to say, I want somebody that can say, I know what you've been through because I've been there. And that's authentic. When you sit down and the veterans, they want to hear your story. They don't want to hear a bunch of whatever you want to call it. They want to know, how did you make it? I made it through some trying days, some crying days, some praying wife. And a wife is not just that favorite word, caregiver. I have a wife who always reminds me, I ain't your caregiver. I don't care for no man. I support you, but I ain't no caregiver. And when I say that, because when we think of the word caregiver, we think of taking care of someone. But what we have to remind ourselves is I'm a patient supporter. I support you through that journey that you're going through. And I empathize with what you're feeling, because if it's reversed, we are talking about prostate today, but tomorrow it could be breast cancer. The next day it could be colon cancer. When we're dealing with men's health, yes, the primary focus is prostate cancer. My primary focus is to educate men and women veterans about health issues. With the support of FEN, we have took that challenge. Back in April, the play was in Jacksonville. As Tom said, I worked hard because I believed in the product. I met Tom back in 2015 at the University of Florida with Dr. Odette. Now, that's my boss. I'm a recruiter for clinical trial. Seems like when you're a survivor and somebody know your name, I'm the prostate guy in Florida. Just call the prostate guy. And everybody wants you on their grants. You can't be on everybody's grants. But one of the things I can be on everybody's team is one team I like most of all, FEN. Because I understand the product. I understand the network. I have been with Tom since 2015, and every time he come to Florida, Brother Meriweather, can you come and participate on the panel? I want you to keep it real. Don't be writing nothing down. Don't be reading no speeches. Just bring it from the heart. And one of the things he said, and him and Adrian said is, we want that AJ that got that passion, that'll get in front of a crowd and maybe make a few mistakes, but he keep on moving. And that's what we are doing at Post 197. We started in April. Tom needed someone to pick up the ball once the play left. I went to my post commander Clark and I say, Finn was looking for a place to host support groups. And my commander took it to the executive board and they thought about it. And we say, okay, we would love to be a part of that program. What does it entail? It entails that once a month that we bring our veterans, female and male, because veterans are not just male. We have our female veterans that we bring them into our lodge. If you look on the, I'm a little ahead of myself, but the first page on the left, bottom left, that's when we was at Bethel Institute in Jacksonville, Florida. The three gentlemen on the right are Vietnam veterans. The guy in the white shirt, real estate owner, owner mortuary. The guy in the middle is a 28-year veteran, Marine, accountant. The guy on the left of him, that's Pastor Green, I think. I can't get his name right, but he's a survivor. He's a Baptist church. And then it's me and Tom. One of the things on that picture, each one of those gentlemen had a story. And they had a story, and it was passion about being a part of the network. When you say, Brother Meriweather called, I'm coming. What do you need? Tell me what you need. You know, when you got your word in your name and your bond, Finn, Prostate Health Education and Network, you hear that word, everybody that's of us knows what it means. They knows Mr. Farrington. They know Adrian. They know what Finn is representing. So when I asked those guys to participate, I didn't have to worry about I get back with you. Just tell me when, where, and what time. Now, the top right, that's Post 197. Our post, American Legion Post, has been around for over 77 years. We in the inner city. Our organization basically caters to the inner city, disparity community, lack of medical. Our post allows breast cancer, anyone who wants to use our facility to come in and host whatever their need for that community, because in that zip code we in, it's not very much being offered out there. But one of the things about this post is, though the gentleman in the front, Commander Clark, behind him is the adjutant, Miss Payne. When I went to them and I said, Tom, want to do this here? That's our first meeting. Over 19 veterans attended the first night. We had some technical problems in the beginning. Our system, our post is an old post, but we are upgrading. We had to spend some money to get the webcast updated so we could get this signal. We didn't have a lot of resources. Once again, Finn stepped up and said, you know what? We will help you with refreshments, whatever you need for the monthly support meeting. You know, the way we get people to your meeting is you offer some free food. If you tell them you got some food, they're gonna come out. Especially Adrian, where you at? That chicken. If we tell them we got some chicken and soda, but they come out. And the thing is, they come out not because of me. It's because of the message. The message is about saving men's and women's lives. We cater our message to the webcast. If the particular webcast is a little bit more technical, what we do, we go to the library. We go and get previous recording that will communicate the message to our members. Some members are not prostate cancer survivors. Some of them are new to the exposure, so we have to educate them. And the problem is sometimes we have to start over in class telling what PSA is, DRE, all this stuff, because some of the men, are you saying veterans, are liking that part of educating themselves about this disease. In my case, it's my passion to educate our veterans in my community, in my church, about prostate cancer and about all the other diseases that veterans got. And that picture really symbolizes the belief in what we are trying to do. We're trying to basically develop a foreplan, a footprint to take elsewhere. We're the only veteran organization in Florida that I know that Tom even sponsored. We're trying to take this footprint to say, we want to take this wherever Daddy Boys Plays goes. Reach out to the American Legion in that local town or wherever the summit. Get those veterans involved, not just call on them and then leave, but get them involved in the activities that you're doing with FIN and being able to say, well, if you don't have assistance, don't have anything, we can help you get the word out. Word of mouth is the best thing. If I give you literature, it's going to end up in the trash when we leave. Most people they're going to look over, I don't need it. But if you can get word of mouth and they see what you're doing in this community and they say, well, I want to be a part of that as a veteran organization, we hoping that by doing Post 197, we can take this idea that Tom and I sit down and brainstorm, take it wherever FIN is, and say, veterans, be a part of this. Help us when we promote into play. If you have something going on in your organization as veterans, let us know. We put it on the website. We reach out to you because right now it's a good thing to be a veteran. We used to get kicked around, but now everybody loves us. So while they loving us, we take advantage of those opportunities. Thank you very much for allowing me these few minutes to get up here. And I thank FIN for even allowing me to be in y'all presence. Thank you.
Mr. Meriweather, give him another round of applause. You know, this is a 2-hour portion, so we only have a few more minutes here. But I want to introduce you to, well, before I do that, I think you understand what our plans are with this Veterans Initiative. Mr. Rowan, you said you need more support. We have the troops on the ground. We're going to work this thing together to help support the veterans and help spread the word and save lives. So I want to introduce Jerry Knight. Now, Mr. Knight is in Jackson, Mississippi, another one of our warriors on the ground. I want him to come and to say a few words about what he's doing in Jackson, Mississippi. Mr. Jerry Knight.
Good morning. Thank you, Ms. Farrington. Last year, I got a phone call from a member of the FIN organization by way of Chicago, Illinois. And before I go to that, my dad died from prostate cancer in 1996. He was 67 years old. I was 42 years old at the time. My mother told me that I was going to have to start doing my PSA screening. And I told her, for what? I said, I rebuke prostate cancer in the name of Jesus. You know. So, but I was obedient to my mom. I started doing my screening up until 2012. My business, the economy was taking a nosedive and my business was failing. And I started putting time into my business, trying to keep it from folding, and I didn't do my screening 2012, nor did I do it in 2013. Well, 2014, when I did my annual checkup, the first thing that I wanted the doctor to do was to check my PSA. And it came back a 9, as opposed to a 4 or below. And I went on and he sent me to a urologist, and took a few weeks, and it advanced to maybe 14 or 15. And by the time I got a biopsy done, it was 35. I was diagnosed with stage 3 advanced cancer. And they did a CT scan, and it shows no signs of cancer in my body nor my bones. So at that time, I was 60 years old. And they said, Mr. Knight, you being a healthy 60-year-old male with prostate cancer in your cells, prostate cancer in your prostate cancer cells in your prostate, he said, I believe if we remove your prostate, that you'll be good. So I took that to my primary physician, and he agreed, and my wife and I, we decided that we would have it removed. And on the 18th of this month, I would be a 4-year prostate cancer survivor. So, Mr. Farrington said, what do we do? We communicated with a prostate, with American Cancer Society person in Jackson, Mississippi, and we wanted to know what could we do to start a group. So she told me, she said, first thing you need to do is get a name. So we formed the name You Are Not Alone Prostate Cancer Support Group. And we got some flyers and we started putting them in the community. And I did a testimony at church after my surgery and found out that it was other men in the church that had prostate cancer. So I told them I wanted to start a group. And they said, well, we'll join. So they joined myself. We got permission from the pastor to start our support group at the church in the Family Life Center. And our purpose is to raise prostate cancer awareness. Our mission is to offer emotional support, educate, and fellowship. And we've been doing that this month for 3 years. And as a result of educating and fellowship and our mission, we put some educational material out in the community, and a guy from Chicago came down to be with his cousin during his surgery, prostate cancer removal. And he took the information back to Chicago and found out and did a PSA and found out that he had prostate cancer. So it saved lives when you raise awareness. You never know how God is going to use your story or your sharing with somebody. And as a result of that, that young man in Chicago called me, told me what had happened to him, and he said the influence of my story and the educational material caused him to start a group in Chicago. He did some research and he discovered FIN. And he called FIN. He called the guy. Is Robbie in here? Raise your hand, Robbie. He called Robbie, and Robbie is originally from Mississippi, like I am. And he had been trying to find a support group down in his home state. And this guy told Robbie about me. And he called me, and it was around, what, this September? It was a few weeks before. So anyway, Robbie called me and he invited me, and I came to last year's summit. And as a result of that, my wife wouldn't let me come without her. Would you stand, honey? My wife's Connie. Thank God for wives. Thank God. And praise the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. And as a result of that, our Senate, we have a senator in Jackson, Mississippi, that wanted us to bring this and present it to FIN. And it's a resolution. And I'm just going to read the title and the ending for the sake of time. And then we're going to present it to Mr. Farrington. What it says here is Senate Resolution Number 21, a resolution recognizing the increased risk to African American men for developing prostate cancer and urging increased education, awareness, outreach, and protection for prostate cancer. And in the end here, well, just plenty of stuff here, but in the end it says, now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the state of Mississippi that the legislature encourages culturally competent outreach efforts to educate and inform communities of color on the importance of early detection, encourages African American men to participate in clinical trials. Amen. And encourages clinical trials to actively recruit African American men. Thank you. And this is signed by Lieutenant Governor Tate Reed, President of the Senate, and John Horn, District 26. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jerry. You know, I was really, yesterday, we spent a lot of time with some of the top medical specialists on prostate cancer in this country, well known. They're important to what we do in terms of the medical side. Today, I wanted you to understand some of the top soldiers on the ground, because they are just as important to what we do. We have to bring these two together in the fight against prostate cancer and to eliminate this disparity. Our ability to make that happen really is the key to our mission. And if we can't make that happen, then we really can't succeed. So I wanted to make sure that today that you understood this side of what FIN is and what FIN does. It's so very, very important. You heard from Gary Davis about Daddy's Boys Play. Now, a couple of years ago, Adrian and I was talking, and I was saying that, you know, we do a lot of work, and you saw that we had 175 events across this country this year. That's this year, with all the things that we do. That takes a lot of work, and sometimes these are very small events, 10, 15 people. Sometimes they're big events. But Adrian and I were talking, and I said, well, you know, we need something where we can bring larger crowds together and really achieve the same thing. And, you know, Adrian's a preacher, so he must have gone to bed and said a prayer. And so anyway, I get this email saying, hey, we got a group that want to do a play about prostate cancer. And this is how I was introduced to Gary Davis. And now, you know, the way the good Lord works, the young lady asked what's happening in North Carolina. There was a time when I thought that everything good came out of North Carolina, being from North Carolina. And so, as it turned out, Garrett Davis Production from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the whole cast is from North Carolina. So we made the North Carolina connection a kind of a key to our outreach around the country. But what you will see tonight with the Daddy's Boys Play, I think you will understand how we are reaching out strategically across this country to reach our communities. Entertainment makes a big, big difference. It allows us to bring people together. And when people register for our plays, we ask them, have they or any member of their family been touched by prostate cancer? Over 50% answers yes. So they understand what the play is about. It touches them, as Junior says, as Charles says. I know them by their stage name. And you will see them tonight. But it really, really brings families together. And then when you see what AJ is able to do on the ground with the veterans, when you see what Jerry is able to do on the ground in Jackson, Mississippi, you understand that this is really happening. This is happening. Now, what we have to do is just increase the activities. We need to accelerate
the progress that we're making, because men are dying. I need to see that disparity drop quicker. You know, the death rate disparity has decreased since Finn has been around and in existence. Now, I want to take some credit for that. I'm not sure we can take all the credit. Y'all can give it to us if you want. But we want to accelerate that. We want to accelerate that. So for you here and for those who are joining us online, join Finn. You know, as Jerry said, when you hear about what we do, and as AJ said, we are open. We have an open door policy. Any group that wants to join us, any church that wants to be partners with us, we welcome you because we need everyone that we can possibly get to join us in the fight against prostate cancer. Now, I know that, you know, every year we have the session. When we first started here, we had a 3 or 4 hour block of time. Then they cut us down to 2 hours because they have more people as part of the Congressional Black Caucus. Until I see people moving in telling us to leave, I usually don't stop. But I think I see some movement outside. So, so what we're going to say is I want to thank you all for being with us today. I want to thank you all for being with us yesterday. I want to thank those of you who are online. And again, yesterday we had 10,000 unique visitors who joined us online. So we have a thank you. Now I do see Reverend Deck. Reverend Deck, please stand. I just want him to stand. Reverend Deck has been with us, Reed Temple AME Church, and we held a performance there last year. And Reverend Deck has been a great partner and supporter of Finn for a number of years. Thank you. So with that, I'm going to say, ladies and gentlemen, we were going to bring the curtain down on the 15th annual African American Prostate Cancer Disparity Summit. And the way we're going to do that is Deacon Ray Fuller in the house. Deacon Ray Fuller, come up, please. We always like to hear from Deacon Fuller at the end or at the beginning of our sessions. Now, he's known as the singing deacon. Yes. Afterwards.
Good evening, everyone. I had all intentions when I came up here to sing a song, but as you know, what you have in mind, God has something else planned for you. Tom, there's a quote that says, the purpose of life is a life with a purpose. And I think you've found your purpose in life. God bless you. I'm a living testimony. I could have been dead and gone, but Lord, you let me live on. I'm a living testimony. And I thank the Lord I'm still alive. Oh, I'm a living testimony. You know I could have been dead and gone, but Lord, you let me live on. I'm a living testimony. And I thank the Lord I'm still alive. I've seen miracles after miracles perform in my life. You keep having mercy on me. I don't deserve to be alive. When I faced dangers I couldn't see, Lord, you kept your angels camped around me. And I just want to say thank you, Lord. I'm still alive. Oh, I am, you can sing, I'm a living testimony. That's it. You know I could have been dead and gone. Oh, Lord, Lord, you let me live on. I'm a living testimony. And I thank the Lord I'm still alive. I have many friends and loved ones who's gone on before me on. You know it caused my heart to bleed when I realized it could have been me. But I know that I'm not worthy. Oh, but the good Lord keep on keeping me. And I just want to take this time and say, thank you, Lord, I'm still alive.
All right, thank you all. Oh, yes, yes. I want to recognize Tony Hill, who's here with us from Jacksonville. Ms. Hills, please stand. You know, I saw him outside. I didn't recognize him without my glasses on inside. So thank you all for being with us.